Welcome to the Kit Car History File series, where we'll be going through the industry's past. We'll be visiting old marques of long ago, some modern ones, some mostly older stuff. A lot of archive information with photographs and information on the cars they made, the people involved, and what happened to them. Hi, welcome to the Total Kit Car YouTube channel. My name's Steve Hull, editor of TKC Mag and TotalKitCar.com. And I'd like to welcome you to another episode in our growing little series on the UK kit car industry's past 75 years of great cars, great marques, characters, personalities, and great designers. But we're going to look at a slightly underrated marque, a pretty successful one for its day, but one that still gets a little, I think, flies under the radar a little bit. And of course, it also gets confused sometimes with, much like low cost and low cust get confused. The marque in question is Merlin. Merlin cars. And inevitably people say, oh, do you mean Marlin? Or they think you're talking about Merlin Motorsport down at Castle Combe, the purveyors of fine performance parts. But no, we're talking about a company called Merlin. I guess a 10-year period between 1983, I'd say, and 93. The Essex Coast-based manufacturer, it was run by Peter Gowing, was right up there with the leading makes, and that was a particular time when the traditional roadster, a la Morgan, was a popular type of kit car project. You had companies like Merlin, of course, JBA, NG cars, selling cars in kits in big numbers. Gowing is a flamboyant character and believed in his product. Enjoyed his company when I met him. He was a real showman as well. He never failed to make people feel welcome. Anything but, always felt welcome at his showroom or at a show stand. Always had exemplary demonstrators for testing. He had some very good builders working for him directly or indirectly building the cars. So a Merlin was always a well-presented car. It's an interesting thing really when you've got a company that is well known but isn't. It's a strange thing really. Let's wind it right back anyway, but the Merlin marque actually traces its history right back to the mid-70s when an American designer called Leonard Whitten, who'd been working and living in London, created a design for a traditional roadster, but took it back to when he went to back to home in the US. He took it with him, and it was still only a drawing, I think, at that time. But he did develop it and he did prototype it, and it did end up being called the Whitten Tiger. And he took that in 1975. He took his idea to one of the US's leading manufacturers, kit car manufacturers of the day, called Thoroughbred Cars Inc. Of Redmond in Washington State, I'm almost certain. They also had, among others, a Mercedes-Benz SSK 540 replica, Beetle based albeit, and they were doing well with that, and they were obviously very receptive to Leonard's Tiger. Contrary to popular belief, I mean, Whitten has obviously been credited before at various times, so it's not as if he's been erased out of the picture. He's always mentioned, certainly in most Merlin history files that I've read, or history features I've read. But it's always stated that he only based the car on a Beetle floor pan, an engine. That wasn't true. He also had customers, or Thoroughbred had customers that fitted, or they allowed installation of Porsche 911 air-cooled engines and I think one or two had Mazda rotary Wankel engines. But then, as time moved on, Thoroughbred developed their own box section ladder frame chassis for the car, and another one that could be allowed it to be powered by Ford, GM, or V6 or V8 engines. So they offered a lot of choice. Meanwhile, back in England, Gowing was closely watching the American market, as a lot of kit car people did in the UK back then. And he'd been running a very successful VW campervan conversion company, as well as sort of general VW accessories and that sort of business. He was naturally attracted as a result to the Beetle-based Tiger. So he ordered 2 body shells, I think it was in 1978. And he could see real potential for them in the UK. So he sold his campervan business, his Beetle parts business, to allow him to fully concentrate on developing his new venture. He used one of his new shells and he fitted it to a Beetle floor pan, and he called that the Merlin TA. And TA stood for nothing other than transaxle. He offered replicas of that, but there were no takers. But he did eventually sell it, and that enabled him to funded the chance for him to use the other body shell on a newly created Ford Cortina-based donor, complete with a separate chassis that allowed fitment of the Cortina's Pinto engine up front. And this one was called the Merlin TF, and TF stood for, it's been speculated an awful lot, Type Ford. That was it. And that was unveiled in 1980. And by now, he was trading as Thoroughbred Cars UK. Things started to really gather pace when he announced the full donor option. And sales were good. Sufficiently so that he was encouraged to produce a 2+2, which was called the Merlin Monroe. Now, speculation is rife, or was rife, that it was named after the popular 50s, 60s crooner Matt Monroe. I'd so love that to be true, but I don't think it was. But anyway, I asked Pete. I don't think I ever asked Peter Gowing that, and I really should have done. I'd love to know what the answer to that question was. Anyway, cash flow issues saw the company go into liquidation in 1984, and all wasn't lost though, as Peter got himself together and returned in 85, this time trading as Paris Cars from the same base. The Merlin returned too, albeit revised with a new chassis, improved rear suspension and a new name. It was newly minted as the +2. And the 2-seater, the original 2-seater version, was now just referred to as the Merlin. And again, they did fairly well, and even TÜV approved one. I won't even go try and pronounce the full German name for TÜV. But everyone knows that if you want to get TÜV, it's very tough. Sorry, my little joke. Apologies. And he gained TÜV approval in 1986. Early 90s saw the Ford Sierra variant introduced as a donor, and this soon dominated sales. This one was called the Merlin IRS, and it reputedly had engineering input from Lotus Engineering, Lotus's engineering arm, who really got a handle on the handling. I guess by the mid-90s, Merlin had run its course, although I think you could still buy one until 1998, before the introduction of SVA. The project lay dormant for about 10 years, until a Worcestershire businessman acquired the whole kit caboodle. Plenty of enthusiasm and good intentions, but his main business, working within the mainstream motor industry, meant he just couldn't find the time. He did, however, and I'd like to have a go in this one, he created a chassis that featured a 3-litre Vauxhall engine from, I'm guessing, a Opel Monza or Vauxhall Monza or Amiga. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, in about 2018, word came that excuse me, a young businessman from Lincolnshire, I think his name from memory was Andrew Imms, had acquired the project and was looking to electrify electric kit car, and he wanted to use the Merlin marque as his template, shall we say. And he wasn't messing around. He advertised. He had a very nice workshop in Lincolnshire, in Hemswell Cliff. Went there once. Really good intentions. He launched a website called merlinsportscars.co.uk. He initially was buying and selling old Merlins and refurbishing them, reconditioning them and selling them on. I think he did quite a few of those. Certainly at the workshop, he had quite a few subjects, shall we say, in for revision, restoration. And his intentions were good. He was toying with the idea of bringing in some Chinese-made electric city cars. And as I said earlier, just to turn the Merlin into an electric kit car. And obviously that all went quiet, and I think Andrew was busy with his outside interests, his other business interests, and I guess it just didn't take off. These things happen, which was quite a shame really, because I was very impressed with Andrew and his intentions and the setup that he had in Lincolnshire. So there we go. But I hope you enjoyed this short but sweet episode, looking at the Merlin. When it comes to sales figures, it's always a guesstimate, probably a good few hundred out there. Still regularly see them at shows. And I think it's testimony. Some of those could have been restored by Andrew in 2018, but I think it's a pretty good testament to the fact that they were well built, or the customers believed in them enough to be able to build a very good car, that they've survived so well. Sometimes some kit cars you don't see anymore, even ones that are sold in fairly good numbers. And when we're talking good numbers, if a company sold 100 kit cars, that's good numbers. We've got another episode on this series. We've got loads of episodes planned, but we've got one coming up which should be quite interesting to people. We've got a pretty good handle on, albeit in guesstimate form, we've got a pretty good handle on the best-selling kit cars of all time, in a sort of a league table. And we're going to do a top 10 best-selling kit cars of all time video. And that should be of great interest. Just a little clue: if a company sells sort of 400 or 500 kit cars, they're going to be troubling the top 10. That's where we're looking at really. But then by the same token, if you want to get in the top 2 or 3, you're going to have to sell 15,000, 20,000. And there's a big gap between the top 3, 4, 5, and the rest really. But so Merlin is a good old British kit car marque, well respected, very well built cars, and cars that survive the test of time, I think. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that episode, as I said. If you could just spend a little bit more time, and if you haven't already done so, press the subscribe button. We try and do these videos once a week at least. There will be at times during the year, during the year there will be bonus ones that I'll just throw in, probably a show review or something like that, or a car appraisal. But every week you're going to be guaranteed to get a video. We've got a great subject to go at, a lot of material, a great archive. So if you could subscribe, that'd be brilliant. If on your way out, don't worry, I'll turn the lights out and lock up. But if you could just hit the like button, I'd greatly appreciate that, because that really helps us. It proves to us really that we're probably on the right path with these videos. It was a good idea, I think, at the time. And it also, not only that, it helps put the videos in the feeds of motoring other specialist car enthusiasts. And that's what we aim really to do, because that'll enable us to do more with the channel. Just leaves me to say thank you very much for giving up part of your day to visit us and to listen to an episode of this series. Wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is, I wish you a great day, and thank you for visiting, and I look forward to welcoming you again very soon. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to a brand new collaboration between Nwins Motors YouTube channel and the TKC Magazine YouTube channel. Now, those of you familiar with the channels, and if you're watching this on Patreon, surely you are, will know that we've had a lot of success with our History File series, where we take the magazine's extensive photo archive and provide voiceover to explain the stories of some of the cars and the manufacturers and the people of the industry in the past that helped to make the industry we have today. Well, what we're doing on this series is a similar thing, using the video archive from both channels to create more extensive videos on various cars or types of cars. By combining the video archive from both channels, we can actually show a little bit more to our individual Patreon supporters than you would get from one of the channels individually. Moreover, after 12 months, this will then filter onto YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there are another 11 episodes waiting for you on Patreon. So if you enjoyed it, then why not go to one of the Patreon pages for Nwins Motors or TKC Magazine and catch up on the rest. Anyway, without further ado, here is this month's video.